Matt, Port Vale this weekend, obviously looking to put a run together after a disappointing couple of weeks results-wise.
Yeah, definitely. Pleased to get the week's training under our belts. Bit of a rest and reset from last weekend. I'm prepared pretty well for Port Vale. Obviously, been an interesting 6 or 7 days on the back of the injuries we picked up last weekend, and then the new COVID guidelines which have just come through. Literally, half an hour, 45 minutes ago. So, a few moving parts in relation to our preparation, but we can't have any excuses going into what we put on that pitch this weekend.
Obviously, Alex Hartridge and Piers Sweeney picked up injury in the last match. How are they both, and how long would you expect them to be out for?
Difficult to give them a timeline. They're both very sore. I expect them to be out of the Christmas and New Year period. How long that goes into January and possibly February remains to be seen. Depends how they respond to treatment and their relatively straightforward rehab programs. Ironic, it's the same injury, medial knee ligament injury. It's such a difficult one to take, to have two outside centre halves or two defenders in the same game, or within half an hour of each other, one from a landing and one from a block tackle. So, that's the way it goes sometimes, and sometimes luck goes against you. We hope there's no long-standing damage for the players first and foremost, but obviously for the squad. And we do expect them to play some part in the remainder of the season. How big a part will depend on how they recover in the next few weeks.
Obviously, with that in mind, we recalled Czech Diabate from his loan at Truro. How impressed have you been with Czech's time at Truro? Because I think they were really pleased with him as well.
Yeah, look, he has impressed in that loan spell. It's important to say he would have had a similar sort of loan spell last season if the COVID restrictions hadn't took away a lot of the non-league pyramid and a lot of their games programme. So he's almost a bit behind in terms of the amount of games and experience he's gained, but he's done fantastically well so far this season at Truro, played in a back three, played all different positions within that back three as well. So there's a flexibility within his game. There's a physicality which he's got. And we feel that he's ready for this opportunity. Like I say, we're going to have to support him through whatever comes in the next few weeks. But we're excited to see what Czech can do. And with any injury, whether it's the two centre halves, it's just further opportunities for the rest of the squad.
We'll take a look at Port Vale then. Obviously, flying high in the league, but actually a few injury problems themselves. I think they've got 5 strikers missing. So obviously going through a little bit what we are.
Yeah, it seems to be that time of year where squads are stretched, and it's the way it happens. Sometimes you get a lot of injuries in the same position. We spoke about Pierce and Alex last weekend, and they seem to have a few injuries top end of the pitch. But they've got a big squad, recruited really well in the off season, so they've been able to fill gaps in the last couple of weeks, and they might get a couple of those players back from injury. Some excellent players, some experienced players at this level. A strong home team, physical team, good on set pieces, and a fantastic way of playing football. So we know how difficult this game is going to be. But it's almost a perfect game in terms of we're looking for a response to the last week's results. I'm sure they'll be looking for the same thing, and hopefully be a good spectacle for two teams challenging at the right end of the table. Always feels a big pitch at Port Vale, and we've got to use that for our benefit. But always a difficult place to go. But we can't be, drawn into what the game looks like on their terms. We've got to make it some sort of reflection on what we want a game to look like.
I mean, you actually answered my next question there. I was going to mention about the size of the pitch at Vale.
It's all Scott Brown talks about. He's took goal kicks there for the last few seasons, and he get just about to halfway, and he kicks it a long way. So it certainly always feels a big pitch, but also there's space around the pitch as well. I know the away fans feel a little bit far away, and even the home fans are around the ground. There's space around the pitch. It's quite a strange environment to play in, which probably makes it feel bigger than it actually is. But we hope it's a good enough surface for us to move the ball on. And like I say, hopefully that bodes well for our passing style. But we've got to get hold of the ball first and foremost, and almost earn the right to use it. So we know how difficult this weekend will be. But like I say, we're looking forward to the game. We're looking forward to what some of our personnel within our squad can produce.
Obviously, the COVID protocols have come through in the past hour or so, as you said, and having had a chance to look at them, games are dropping like flies at the moment, aren't they? What do you make of everything that's going on at the moment?
Well, first and foremost, I think it was much needed. We needed a bit of concrete guidance, so to speak. We needed to know whether we should or shouldn't be testing, and what it looks like in relation to how many positive cases you've got and whether or not games still go ahead. and we've not tested as yet. So we've been waiting for something sort of information to come through from the EFL, and it has done in the last half an hour or so. So as soon as we read through it fully and get to know all the details, it looks like we're going to revert back to what we were doing at the height of the pandemic, which are all the usual restrictions, red zones here and there, constant testing within 24, 48 hours of the next game. So I suspect we'll test before we get on the coach tomorrow morning, which might mean we lose a few, but hopefully not too many, so the game can still go ahead. And we feel we're expecting all other clubs at our level to do the same. So as long as now everyone knows what is meant to be happening within their medical departments and within their training grounds and home stadiums and journeys within that, everyone should be working towards the same playing field, really. But already you've seen yourself, and you mentioned it, games are starting to get called off, so a little bit of uncertainty, and never nice going into something which you don't fully know what's going to happen next, but we're preparing as normal in relation to our game this weekend.
I think in the protocols or from the guidance that they've sent through, I think if you have 14 players, including a goalkeeper, then the game has to go ahead. Does that sound like, is that something you agree with, 14, or do you feel like, if you've had a wave of infections, that the game should probably be called off?
It's difficult to know what's right or wrong, because if you've got 4 or 5 injuries, which everyone has at the moment, and then you've got 4 or 5 COVID cases, you can probably still put out 14 players and a goalkeeper. But it's what that group of players look like in terms of standard, in terms of levels, in terms of experience. So you want it to remain a fair league, and we obviously felt that 2 seasons ago, and what happened throughout last season. So I'm not sure there's any right or wrong answers at the moment. It's just making sure everyone's looking to the limits, and everyone's keeping it as safe as possible. But then we've got to have a half an eye on what's happening in the stands as well, because as much as we speak about player safety and that environment which is created, then it's got to be mirrored in the stadiums as well. And we're going into a period where we're expecting our biggest crowds of the season. I'm sure Port Vale are the same. I'm sure Forest Green are the same. I'm sure Sutton are the same. And then everyone looks forward to the Christmas schedule and games of football. So certainly not ideal in terms of timing, but we're fighting against an animal or a beast which you can never predict when it's going to come, and it's unfortunate it's going to affect the football programme. I'm sure it will, but we've just got to respond accordingly and stay as level as we can in terms of our minds and bodies.
I imagine you'll just be reinforcing the message that we've had previously to your players. It's just sort of be sensible and make sure you're doing the right things when not on the pitch or not at training.
Yeah, absolutely. But they're young men. It's Christmas. They're going to see their families. Families are going to come from far and wide. Not all families are down here. So, like I say, it's so difficult to advise because I'll be having family coming down from the north of England. I'm not seeing my nan for a period of time, and my parents as well. So, you want to see your family. You want to spend time with loved ones. You want to be mindful of everyone else and be respectful. But it's still that Christmas period, so it's so difficult to influence in all aspects in terms of the way people live their lives and personal preference, individual choice. People have got to find their own way. As long as we're all respectful of each other and stick to this similar sort of plan, then we can get through it together. Like I say, I just hope it doesn't affect the football schedule too much for not only our own benefit but also the fans as well.